Alright, once more with feeling. Howdy there, folks. Tex of the Black Pants Legion here, and guess what? We're back. It's Spain again, but not the same Spain as last time. See, some things happened, and I'm gonna need you to listen to this to make sense of it, because, well, it was a shock to me. The makers of Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts have said they are not updating the game anymore. They said they're being shuttered. It's the end. The end of all things. Sad to say, they were owned by a very small studio that more or less, I believe, makes cell phone games and mobile tablet games and stuff like that, and they had backed Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts as more or less a, hey, wouldn't this be neat? And apparently enough people review-bombed Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, or apparently they didn't hit their marks, or apparently some people at the studio didn't make the money that the producer thought they should be making. And so they shut them down. And that is tragic. So if you guys can find the publisher of Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts and begin writing them very polite letters, saying, hey, the autistic undersigned individual wants more of this boat game, and you're removing its building is really harshing my vibe. I think I'd appreciate that. Secondly, with the game reaching a certain amount of frozen status, that means that this now belongs to the modders. And much like the video I made, where I talked about the importance of mods and player agency and many things many years ago, one of the favorite videos I ever made, even though it didn't do very well, I certainly believe everything I said then. And I think that stands true to now. Modders are your last line of defense. They keep something alive long after everyone involved in the game has moved on, grown tired, been fired, died, what have you. So, this is being played with something called the Dreadnought Improvement Project. And what's interesting about the Dreadnought Improvement Project is it certainly tags in a bunch of the smaller countries into this global order of affairs. You can play as Greece. You can play as the Ottomans. You can play as South America and do the Dreadnought Arms Race. You can play as many, many people. As well, it offers some tuning over the main game, some modest changes, some behind-the-scenes calculations and what have you. A little bit of balance passes and this and that. So, that being said, I felt cheated as Spain considering the flow of things. And thus, for my first playthrough with the Dreadnought Improvement Project, which link below in the description, and the editors should be putting at least a arrow or something to draw your eye, I will say, let us begin with revenge. Let us bring Spain to the world. Let it. Oh, anyways, I need coffee. All right. Do 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 do. Boom boom boom. Oh God. You know what? I'm not gonna play the politics dance. Whatever happens, happens. First step, transport capacity. Second step, tech budget. Third step, I need to build like that much. Like I'm gonna just start chipping at my capacity a little bit by little bit. From what I know, they've added and removed some things. I think submarines were removed. I think mines show up late game. But mostly this is about ships and dreadnoughts and what have you. So I am Spain. I'm not going to do torpedo boat gambit. What I am going to do is I'm going to try to build a light cruiser squadron for the world. And thank you guys for all tuning in. I really appreciate it. It's been a year so far. It's been a year. I think we're all tired of modern events right now. And that's fine. I'm going to tell you this much. I'm just tired in general. I was speaking with a few friends of mine who had said, you still, they'd asked, you still do that YouTube thing, don't you? And I said, oh yeah. I still do the YouTubes. And they asked me why. And I said, well, it's kind of an interesting question, isn't it? Why do I still do this YouTube thing? Because I started doing the YouTube thing back in 2011. It is now 2025, so it has been some time, obviously. And there's some time to think on these things. You should always take time to think on these things. You should always take time to think on these things. But here are my thoughts, at least at this moment. And they are frozen in time, because I will speak my thoughts, and, if the editor doesn't grind them off or polish the numbers off my thoughts here, they'll be frozen in time like amber. And in the future, they may be revisited, they may be wrong. But here's what I think. This is what I told my friends. I've had a rough life. You don't sound like I do if everything went well or according to plan. A lot of the things that I wanted to do with my life didn't work out. A lot of the people who said they loved me and said that they would be there for me, or said that unconditionally, they accepted me, did not, and moved on. I'm one of those people that's the sad story of the guy who's there for the girl and the girl moves on or finds someone else. I'm the sad story of the friend who's there for the other friend and picks them up out of the gutter and helps them get their shit together, and then is replaced by new friends, sad to say, and is forgotten, or is thought of as, I suppose, too old-fashioned, perhaps too inflexible, or perhaps just weird. My life has been pretty hard. I have incurable depression, which is treatment resistant. And there are times where I fell into a hole. And I mean for years of my life, I fell into a hole. Hold on, I need to name this boat. Pepito. There we go. For years of my life, I would fall into a hole. After I was a 911 dispatcher back in the day, I couldn't do that after a while anymore because it's soul destroying. It really is. And so you find yourself kind of in a place where you just want the pain to stop. You just want something to be numb to, if that makes any sense. And that's kind of what I was going for. Day after day, I would find something that would just pass the time. I wasn't really living, per se, just existing, if that makes sense. Moving forward, inexorably, one step at a time. Gravity dragging me forward. And I felt that the world was changing, but I really wasn't changing with it. A lot of the things that had kind of anchored me, belief systems and the faith I had placed in people, and certainly in my own abilities, had all been really tested and had been just shattered one after another. It was a really hard time of my life, and the opportunities were very few. But I've never been someone who backs down or gives up or just throws their hands to the sky and says, "Why me?" Because I know that there's plenty of people who are suffering any given day. And if you ask why, you're going to get 100 different answers, and none of them are going to be actually accurate. Just a matter of perspective, I guess. So, day in, day out, I was just existing, marking the span of time, doing that which I required to draw breath, but not much more. Not much more at all. I was a very lonely person then. A very, very lonely person. Oh, well, Chile, yeah, fuck you. All right, so, and perhaps a conversation, what is my fleet? Yeah, none of your business. That's the answer. I'm just gonna be, I'm gonna be Spain. I'm gonna be Spain, España, and I'm just gonna tell people to fuck off, because I'm talking about my life right now, which is something I rarely do, I guess. Origin story, deep lore. So, after all that, one day I was sitting there in the liquor store. I was staring at a bottle of whiskey that was like $19.99, and I figured, I could buy this thing and kill it in like 2 hours and just sit there and watch reruns of Star Trek like I had, all the other Fridays before that, and just kind of turn my brain off, which is very, very satisfying to do from time to time. But I had been doing that far too often at that point in my life. I was really running from any sense of responsibility. I was running from any sense of trying to steer my life in the right way because, again, at that point in my life, all the safety nets and all the social structures, all the people who should have had my back or said they didn't. And it was nothing I had done. It's just sometimes you're unlucky, and that's how it is. And then instead, I remembered a friend of mine told me that I should be doing something more creative with my time. I should be doing something expressive, something artistic, something that could make others laugh from my pain, where I could take that natural ability I had at goofing around and being weird and being entertaining, as my friends had said I am, frequently enough to cover up the old hole in my soul. The wallpaper I put up is pleasing at times. And for the same amount of money, I went out and bought this piece of software called Fraps. And a few days after that, I started recording. And a few days after that, I started uploading. And initially, at first, I didn't really have any idea what I was doing. I was just one of a million people recording stream of consciousness, thoughts and drivel and, observations and ideas and doing what everyone did at that time. That era of the internet was a lot different than this era of the internet. That era of the internet, people had blogs. Everyone had a blog. No one really had a podcast. It was a blog era. It was an era of people wallpapering their decisions and drivel and ideas and high concepts and morality and philosophy, and they would just wallpaper it up for everyone to see. They would dissect themselves for the world. They would gut themselves upon the newspaper of yesterday and let you see what you could of the portents. But there I was, much younger, much more energetic me. Still in pain, but trying to put on a new shell, trying to find something new, trying to hermit crab my way to just a better future. Not something perfect, obviously. We don't live in a perfect world, do we? But something better. And I never had the ambition of, I'll get famous and then things will work out, or, oh man, I'll make a lot of money doing this and then I'll be able to not have to struggle to survive, or, never had any of those goofy ambitions because I was always wary of fame, fortune, success. Again, you don't sound like this. If all goes well, right? I fear fame, I fear success, I fear recognition. And this is true. I have friends who will notice that while people have tried to put me forward saying, Tex, you're the reason Battletech came back. Tex, you're the biggest voice in the choir of this. Tex, you could stand on the stage. You could be counted among, you could do all of these things. And I just shrink from that. I am terrified of sitting under a pillar of light and being recognized as the sole positive reason of anything. I don't like it. I'm a person who feels ultimately alone in a crowd of people. I can feel alone at my own birthday party, surrounded by all of my own friends. That's what horrible, untreatable depression's like, I guess. It's isolating. And I know that sounds just absolutely awful. I know that may cause some of you to feel bad for me, and I ask you not to. I've made my peace with it. It is what it is, but I understand it is tragic in a sense. The guy who brings everyone together feels so alone. But I move on. I don't dwell on it. So I never had any of those ambitions. I never had any of those thoughts. I never had any of those moments of, yeah, I'm going to go stand up there and I'm going to be, Mr. So-and-so. I'm going to be the big guy. Because back then YouTube was really pushing this huge, giant movement that you could be the Superman. You could be this magnificent being. You could be wealthy and powerful and loved by all of these strangers, and you could command vast sums of money, and you could be famous, world famous, just by playing video games or whatever else. And I wanted none of that. I saw those people acted, and I said, to be celebrated, to be a caricature of yourself. That's terrible. Truly is terrible. And I know some people will say, Tex, but you have a caricature of yourself, Randolph P. Checkers. And I'll be like, yes, but I admit it. I admit it is a caricature. It is not. I am not him. Well, not in all aspects. Certain aspects, yes. Certain aspects, certainly. But which, well, we'll discuss that, perhaps. But I never had those ambitions. I'd always wanted to do something just to do it. The original ambitions I had on YouTube were just to survive. Just to be a light in the darkness, if for none other than myself. To rant and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light, to borrow a phrase. I just wanted people to know that I existed. They didn't have to know my name. Like a punk band in the neighborhood, you just had to know I was there, not that I was good at playing. I never wanted to be famous, and I certainly have done everything I can to hide and shrink away from any sense of fame. I'm not really good with those concepts. But over the years, I found that if you go forward and you are yourself and you make what you want to make for the reasons you want to do it, and you steer away from all of the quick coin you can make, all of the quick gains you can make, if you stay away from the mainstream, if you stay away and steer very carefully away from things that are destructive, that are distracting, that are temporary, and instead kind of stay the course of where you know you should be, you can emerge over time in a realm that you still recognize yourself. A lot of people will speak of the casualties that they've made over the course of being in a career, of being a creative. I've known many people who have said that in the course of their career of being a creative, you know, they have to look back and look at all the sacrifices that they made and all the issues of all the people they lost and what have you. And what they're speaking of is the oh my God, wait a second. That's Russian Morocco. All right, that's a bit cursed. Wow. You lose a bit of yourself, is what I'm saying. There is a debt that is paid when you create things. The problem is that if that debt is external, if you sell yourself, if you take ads, if you sit there and expend your creative energy making ads with your time rather than making art or making an expression of the self, you've kind of just lost your direction. And I understand everyone has to get by. People have to eat. But that's also why I'm a workaholic. I work 2, if not 3 jobs. And no, I am not rich. I have a small house. I have roommates. I drive a simple old car. I would not be recognized as dressing exceptionally well or anything of that matter. I try to live a simple life. And if anyone ever tried to put great coin in my hands, I'd just give it away, as I have with the own money I've made. And that kind of leads me into my next thing. Some people wonder why I have such a weird, strange thing when it comes down to making money. A lot of folks over the years, in fact, have kind of really rebelled and bounced off that whole thing. They can't wrap their head around it. Because they say, Tex, you made this film studio and you make money a little bit, you know, making film and so on and so forth. You should sell stuff. You should do all these things. You should take partnerships. You should X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And before long, you have this long decision trees of corporate sensibilities and finance avenues and all of these other things that are not creating something. All of this lost time and energy spent trying to chase profit, which will forever run away. Every time you meet your ends, the ends shall move. That's one thing life has taught me. And I've learned that having ambition to have greater ambition is kind of dangerous. The world will shift and change beneath your feet if you stand still long enough. But if you chase something, you'll find you'll only be tired. You have to stay your path. And I know, as with the start of any series I do that is not a Text Talks, there will probably be 20, 30,000 people who listen to this. Some people may have their own thoughts on this, and that's fine. I encourage you to share them. Some people will have their observations on this. Some people will sit there and say, Tex, what do you want out of this? Now, that is the rare question. It is seldom in my life that people have actually asked me what I want. Here comes Mr. Train, as if on cue. That son of a bitch. I'm gonna get up and get more coffee. I'm on a roll here. You guys should do the same. Hit pause. Go get more coffee. You've earned it. It's a stressful time. All right, where were we? Oh yeah, purpose. So a lot of people have asked, why? That's the question. Why do this? It requires a lot of time. It's certainly evolved and mutated since it began. Obviously, this has moved beyond just the simple expression of a single man flailing his arms into the darkness and going, what does it all mean? I couldn't tell you. If you're looking for some sort of Zen understanding of the universe, you've come to the wrong corner of the internet. I will never tell you what any of this all means. I will say, perhaps the real meaning is the friends we've made along the way. But, well, that's actually kind of reasonable. But what I'm getting at is, if I had to ask what I want, which is seldom what people seem to ask me. In fact, it's almost never been asked, tragically, in my life. Most people just tell me what I'll have, and, you get with the program, as it were. I'm gonna, by the way, improve my transport capacity here a bit, just hoping to get that up as much as possible before leveling it off, and then I will build more shipyard size. But yeah, a lot of people just kind of assume or presume or what have you. I've never wanted to be number one at anything. I don't want anyone to think that ego plays any part of what I do. I'm very content to be part of something, and I certainly will say that I feel bad when I'm left out. That strikes a few chords from childhood. Being the person left out, and the fear of being left out is I would say probably pretty core to a lot of people's greater fears. I certainly feel poorer for being not included in something, but in reality, if you ask me what do I want out of all this experience, that's interesting. So in the beginning, I suppose all of this was just an expression to say I existed, not that I mattered, that I existed. Some sort of mark, a rearranging of the recycled electrons of the internet. A wake in my passing. A boot print on a shore between the waves, nothing more. As I have said on the Patreon, I'm a man content to build sandcastles between tides, but I will never say I rule them. A lot of people seem to think that they need to build something giant or be recognized as some god, and I point out, look at all the people who found fame in our lifetime. I mean, look at all the meme-worthy people over just the last 10 years who found such brief fame. People who were page one of the internet have since found nothing. I'm sure they're content with the fame they had. I'm sure Chocolate Rain guy is like, I was that guy. I'm sure Numa guy points out to his friends, like, hey, remember that? And he does it in the car. He puts the song on as he drives around, and they just roll their eyes and they're like, that was then, man. That was then. The thing is, if I had to put a name on anything that I want out of all this, is that I would like the ability, if possible, if all things are possible, to keep doing this my way, which is a good way, I think. Not hurting people, not exploiting anybody, just making stuff with my friends, putting it up for charity when it really hits big, and being a force for good. I mean, good Lord. Over the past few years, we've raised like $500,000 for charity. We saved like George Ledoux's house. We saved game store owner's leg. We've buried like 3 fucking people. We tried to buy Albania's Air Force. That still raises some eyebrows, but, I mean, I think we could have had it. It's just, that was a matter of timing, really. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his MiGs? Actually, they were like Chengdu F5, F7s and such, but semantics. The thing is, I feel that being able to do stuff with your friends that has a positive impact in this world, to build a positive community that can then outlast you and leave a mark on this world, not a permanent, indelible mark, but a mark of positive affirmation of the internet. And I'm not trying to say everything's perfect, I ain't. I will never be confused for a saint, I'm not worthy of being beatified. I swear too fucking much. I'm not a perfect man by any stretch of the imagination. I have many, 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 many flaws. But I'm looking for that opportunity to build something with my friends and just exist. I don't ever want to be a wealthy man. It would be nice someday, I think, to not worry as much about paying my bills, to not have as shitty house as I do now, perhaps not to live so close to a goddamn train. Those things would be rather pleasant. It'd be nice to have nicer internet. I'd love to have a wooden fireplace again, so I could watch the fire and stuff. I'd like that. That would please me. Small comforts, really. Maybe a little bit of land so I could be left alone on, but nothing too crazy. I'll be friends with Britain, because Britain is fuck huge, and yeah, Spain. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? I'll be friendly with Spain. My unrest is at 22. All right, so we're just going to try to be cool. And drive that stuff down. But yeah, I think the greatness of what we've achieved here, if anything, is that the BPL has proved a few things. One, that you don't need to be a sellout or a jerk or exploitative to actually, make film and do good and teach yourself the ropes and be an okay guy in creating stuff. Two, that you can give back more than you take. For instance, over the years in Space Station 13, amusingly enough, we were so prevalent in pushing filk music, like stuff like Leslie Fish and what have you, that her last producer, who worked with her to get her final work done, and still has been pushing her remastered stuff out there in the world, her final producer reached out to me and thanked me for all the many years. He's like, brother, you kept this shit alive. Like, people had forgotten about it. And I said, how could I? I grew up with this shit with Dr. Demento, and I realized I was suddenly very old. The reason I tell that story is not to clap myself on the back, but to point out that I did it my way. I played the music I liked, and I didn't, go for that which was popular, but that which tickled me most. And in doing so, I kept that thing alive. I kept Space Station 13 and many servers alive over the years, from playing on them to showing where you could fund them, to show them where their Kickstarter, or not Kickstarters, their Patreons were, how you could donate to them, where you could play it, how you could play. Thousands and, oh God, man, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours. For those of you who have sat back and watched the whole playlist of Space Station 13, all 14 years of footage over the years, watching it morph and change and what have you. Good Lord. Good Lord. You are crazy. I know a few people who've done that. They said that's their evening thing with their loved one, is to put on a few Spacemans and to watch it through and be like, I want to watch this Odyssey as it continues on. They see themselves as like anthropologists of a very weird time and place on the internet, and I wish them luck. I do wish them luck. But being able to be present and do positive for people, to help, to build a broader stage, to help bring Battletech back, to be a voice in the choir, to help keep Space Station 13 alive in the original spirit of it, to help correct its history, as we did when we interviewed the creator, after everyone said the game was stolen and all of these other crazy stories. Not true. I just asked the guy. He's a cool guy. You can absolutely go out there and do all the things you want to do your way. So if I could ask anything of myself, I would ask to keep doing that. Now there's probably 10, 20, 30,000 people watching this series. Perhaps, because YouTube being YouTube, you're not going to reach your full audience anymore. Ever. We all spread through word of mouth. That's just how you exist these days. And that's fine. That's fine. But if anything, I would just ask for all of you who've tuned in and have enjoyed the journey over the years. I appreciate you. And if anything, what does Tex want? Tex wants to keep going. I don't want to be number one. I don't want to rule the world of creation. I don't want to be a world famous director. I don't want to be rich or powerful, because those things scare me. Oh, God. Whenever you watch somebody, suddenly find power, fame, and fortune, holy shit, does that go badly. Man, that is like a curse. You see suddenly somebody wins the lottery or whatever, and you're like, oh boy, here comes the bad version of them. And then, somebody inherits a bunch of money, same thing. They just, ooh, yeah, that shit scares me. It's all the demons suddenly come out. Everything they've suppressed for so long, suddenly they're like, it is my time. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. If I was perhaps a little more selfishly motivated, I would say, now that I've bared my soul, all 20, 30,000 of you, go to the Patreon, and if all of you gave me $5, I would be able to blah, blah, and then make some empty, bland promise to change the world for the better, and certainly live a better life. And look, I'll be honest. I'm just happy to be here. I'm glad you guys enjoy what I do, because I don't think I could live with it any other way. I mean, sure, this is a weirdo playing a weirdo little boat game, talking about that stuff that makes him happy about the weirdo little boat game. but I'm glad you guys can enjoy it as background. And I thank you for being my fans. And I feel that I have the best fan base in the world. At any rate, guys, I think that'll about do it for this episode. This was emotionally draining to kind of just hammer all this out, but I figured I'd wanted to. It's been a while before I, talked from the self. It's good. It's good to do that. At any rate, a few things before I go. 1, the Black Pants Legion has a website. Check that shit out. Editor on screen. Doesn't that look fancy? You should go check that out. It's a really cool website. It actually has a newsletter. We have a newspaper on there now. Yeah, and we keep adding more stuff. Don't worry, it's not just a static website. We keep adding more stuff. There's going to be text-based Let's Plays on there, like old school. Yeah. Secondly, Black Pants Legion has a podcast. There's a link. You could actually just Google the Black Pants Legion podcast. It's everywhere. Spotify is how most people listen to it, but it's everywhere. There's a million apps. Just that, yeah, enjoy. That one's good. And I'll see you around. Remember, guys, the world's in a fucky place. So take care of each other. Look out for each other. And if all else fails, remember, you got this. All right, once more with feeling. defenses, boys. There is no reason to hold back now.